everyone, it's Lena Banks, certified financial planning professional and small business coach based here in Austin, Texas. Welcome back to your financial therapy for the week. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Before we get started, I need to ask you, if you've been enjoying the show, please like, subscribe, give us a review, or just keep downloading wherever you're listening or watching. I'd really appreciate that. Today, we're talking about the affordability crisis. This is kind of a second episode in a series because I've just been seeing so many headlines about this recently. Everybody's in the same boat, or at least everybody's kind of feeling the same feelings about it. And when we talk about money and finances, 95% of our decision making is based on emotional aspects of how we carry ourselves in the world. And so I think it's really important to talk about those things. Today's episode is called The Affordability Crisis, What American Dream? So we did an episode a while back, The Affordability Crisis, Drowning in Debt. It took off. It was kind of a popular episode. So I'm going back to that well with The Affordability Crisis, What American Dream? And some of you guys already know what I'm talking about here. There have been plenty of headlines recently about people, even people who you would traditionally think are doing just fine, really struggling in today's economy. And so I'm going to go through some of those headlines because I think they're kind of shocking. The first one was from the Washington Post. It says, housing is so expensive that people earning $200,000 qualify for help. So data shared with the Post shows that home buying assistance programs across the U.S. have been raising their income threshold requirements. In other words, there is a reality check happening across America that even folks who are making $200,000 a year may still need help purchasing a home. And that is in part because of prices. That's in part because of wage stagnation. It's in part because of just general inflation, cost of living issues across the board. And here's another headline from the Wall Street Journal. The U.S. did lose 92,000 jobs last month, February, as unemployment rose to 4.4%. So this traditional view of the economy that everything's kind of chugging along just fine, unemployment is low, that is starting to fray a little bit. We also had the Supreme Court striking down the tariffs a little while back, but nobody's banking on any of those dollars now flowing into consumers' pockets because of that. And I did an episode a while ago where I mentioned that we're probably only feeling about half, 50 to 55% of the impact of tariffs. Small businesses, especially, have been trying their best to kind of mitigate the damage of those by not passing through all of the costs of these tariffs. Also, large corporate entities are doing their best to keep the consumers consuming. So we haven't even seen all of the damage from those tariffs up until now, and we're probably not likely to see much of the gain from that reversal anytime soon either. The reaction was actually to put more tariffs on the table. So, we can't bank on that for stemming some of this affordability crisis either. The next headline, Fortune magazine, even most six-figure earners say buying a house is unattainable. Half of Americans can't afford to dine out or vacation in a cost of living crisis. And so this is applying to a lot of different aspects of American life, not just buying a home. So if that's not your cup of tea, if you're not really interested in that as your goal, this is still affecting you because you're not able to have the experiences that you would typically want to have. So going on a vacation, going on a nice trip, or dining out, those things are becoming more and more difficult for people to do, even those making six figures, which again, in our mindset, we're thinking those people are doing just fine. Many U.S. adults say essentials like healthcare, energy costs, Groceries are outside of their typical budgets in this cost of living crisis, and many are forced to delay the American dream of homeownership. We have some more headlines. Again, from the Washington Post, most renters, including those earning six figures, doubt they could afford a home in the foreseeable future. So in the foreseeable future. And these are people who are renting, making six figures. And so ostensibly they should be able to hopefully save and see that in their future as something that's realistic. If that is something that is in their goals. And that is, that's really disheartening to hear that so many people don't even see it as a potential. Healthcare, new cars, new homes feel unaffordable to most Americans. Here's some more. The Wall Street Journal says Americans with higher incomes are starting to fall behind on their payments. So their mortgage payments, their car payments, things like that. So that tells us that it's not just that I can't afford to potentially purchase something, I can't afford what I've already purchased. And that's very scary because obviously the more that you fall behind on just those basic debt payments, the further in debt you'll get. You are doing different things in order to keep up, and that's not necessarily a great thing either. So drowning in debt, not great, but changing your patterns to kind of meet the match of where you're actually at can be very difficult. And so, when you're used to making a higher income, and then all of a sudden that income doesn't go as far as it used to, now you're stuck kind of not making some of the payments that you're supposed to make, not meeting your obligations. And of course, that's terrible. And then finally, The Street magazine says Americans are speaking out on debt and how it's affecting their health, their well-being, their mental health and well-being, and it's really detrimental. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and maybe some things that you can start coaching yourself to do, because the right answer can't be to just put your head in the sand. You've got to keep on track with at least meeting your reality where it is. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So one of the articles that I read was from USA Today. I was talking about cities experiencing the most financial distress, and there are a lot of surprising cities on that list. But the really kind of sad and scary thing, I'm in Austin, Texas right now. All four major Texas cities, metropolitan areas, are on this list. So it's a top 10 worst cities for financial distress. And Houston, number 2. Dallas, number 4. San Antonio, which is really interesting because San Antonio, in my mind, has always been kind of a more moderate city. It doesn't get outside of its or over its skis too much, is just like my concept of it. San Antonio, number 6 on the list. And then Austin is number 9. So other cities on the list, so it starts off with Chicago, Illinois. Las Vegas comes after Houston. Los Angeles is number 5. Atlanta, Georgia, number 7. New York, which I think nobody would be surprised about, is actually number 8 on the list. And then Phoenix, Arizona rounds out the list at number 10. So it is all over the country that folks are feeling this. It's not just in the coastal cities where you would typically think. And Texas is disproportionately all over this list. And so I want to let people know, like, this is not something that we're making up in our heads, obviously. I think this is something that a lot of people are reckoning with now and just kind of realizing, man, even if I have a job, even if I make good money, even if I have a plan and want to look forward to having that American dream, it is feeling really unattainable right now. And most of it is because we have a real crunch in this country right now with affordability and cost of living. So to do this study, Wallet Hub compared the 100 largest cities in the country across 9 metrics in 6 categories. Categories like credit scores, people with accounts in distress, the average number of accounts in distress, change in the number of bankruptcy filings year over year, searches for debt, searches for loans. And so when you're talking about these things, and all 4 of the major metro areas are coming up in Texas, it really stood out to me because it tells me that this is a huge problem, but it is very acute here in Texas. So what does that mean? It really means that people are struggling. People are really struggling. And I think one of the things that can help when you are struggling is to understand that you're not alone. And so putting it in perspective and saying, the people out there who are driving the wonderful cars and living in the beautiful houses and everything like that, first of all, they might be in more debt than they can actually manage themselves. Being credit worthy, it does not mean that you can actually afford what you choose to buy. And so that's something that we really need to keep in mind. But also that, you can't check out from this situation. It's really everywhere. So unless you're planning to move to one of the most affordable cities, one of the cities that is in least financial distress, and I'm sure you can Google it, there are 10 cities on the list that are the least in financial distress, according to these metrics. You are in a place where you are going to have to actually look at what you're doing, how you're doing it, how other people are doing it, and try and make some drastic changes. So we did have an episode about places to look in your financial life to try and make drastic change. But I want to just encourage you, don't check out of the situation. I want to tell you you're not alone. I want to tell you, you should make a plan, because this really does affect over time your mental health and wellness, and we can't be blind to that. And I also want to let you know that you don't need to get distracted from this concept, right? I think it's really easy for us to kind of self-medicate with ironically more spending in some cases, and you really want to make sure that when you are looking at your budget, when you're looking at what you can actually afford, that you are being realistic and you're not getting distracted by all of the people out here who seem to be doing great, but are probably in your same boat, and potentially because they do have more ways of expressing themselves in finances, so they perhaps are the type to kind of keep up with the Joneses a little bit. That doesn't mean that they're actually in a better spot than you. And so mentally, we've got to reframe our mindset to focus on our financial health as something that we maintain, that we use to our benefit going forward. So one of the things that I really want to encourage you guys to do is to make a budget, to sit down, have a realistic conversation with yourself, go back through your last month of spending and see what the new normal is. Because a lot of times we kind of put things on autopilot. Like I said, especially if you have a job, if you're one of the unfortunate people who has been losing their job over the last several months, then that's like a whole other story. You should definitely kind of revisit your finances and your spending at that point. But if you still have a job, if you still have the same job that you've had, or even you're making more money, you really want to coach yourself not to expand your lifestyle to match what you make now, and to really be realistic about how far each and every dollar goes in this economy, because it requires attention. It requires your attention. And as you're doing that, having conversations with people that you trust about finances, having conversations with your partner, your financial partner, having conversations with your kids about what's happening, and reframing the situation is so important. So this is a very short episode. I just wanted to put out there all of the kind of crazy headlines that I have been seeing lately, because I think it's really important for us to kind of come to terms with there's something big happening here, and as Americans we do need to pay attention to it, and we need to adjust ourselves accordingly. So something to think about for the week.